Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. The finely dressed man ignored the villager's anger. He regarded Hai coldly as he said, "I can give you an opportunity to stand up again. Will you come with me?" Hai looked up and met the eyes of the finely dressed man. He remained silent. The finely dressed man continued to say, "I can give you a Rolian identity. The Guluo villagers won't be giving you any more trouble. What do you think? Are you really willing to be a slave here for the rest of your life?" Hai spat in response. The finely dressed man was not angered. He only shook his head and said, "I'll ask you one last time, will you come with me?" A hint of killing intent flashed in his eyes. At this moment, roar! A strange cry reached the village from the west. The villagers who hunted for a living looked in the direction of the sound. A beast. My lord. It's a beast. The finely dressed man wondered out loud, this is a remote place, isolated by the 100,000-foot abyss. How can there be a beast here? As soon as he finished speaking, an imposing beast that resembled a tiger flew into view from the west. It stared at them in the air as it held a scabbard stained by mud in its mouth. At the same time, a few individuals emerged from the forest. At the forefront, the old Zhou carried the air of an immortal as he stood with his hands on his back. The others followed closely behind him. All of them were following the beast that was carrying a scabbard in its mouth at a leisurely pace. The beast was not moving fast as well. Its speed was only slightly faster than if one were to walk. The sun shone through the canopy of the forest and illuminated these people. Before long, the beast descended at the entrance of the village. When Zhou arrived, he swept his gaze past Guluo villagers and the sticks and rods in their hands, the finely dressed man, and the two large wolf dogs before his eyes finally landed on the young Zhenghai who was curled up on the ground with his hands shielding his head. It was understandable that Zhou's other disciples and the members of the Evil Sky Pavilion did not recognize the young Zhenghai. However, as his master, how could he not recognize him? Zhenghai's youthful appearance brought Zhou's memories back to 300 years ago. Zhou looked at the Guluo villagers again. With his current cultivation base, he could easily wipe out the entire village for his disciples' sake, but he did not. There were better ways to go about this. Since Zhou remained silent, the others did not speak as well. Zhou walked up to Zhenghai. When he saw the confused expression on young Zhenghai's face, realization dawned on him. He asked gently, "What's your name?" Zhou had asked the same question to the same person 300 years ago. He wondered if this would trigger young Zhenghai's memories. Young Zhenghai looked around, bewildered, before he answered, "Hi." Zhou looked down and extended his wizened but strong hand to young Zhenghai. Everyone only watched in confusion. They did not know what Zhou's intention was. Zhou's disciples were equally as confused. They did not understand why their master would treat an unknown young man in such a manner. See Wuya, who had spent considerable time with his eldest senior brother, was confused. When he met the dirty young man's eyes, he felt stifled and uncomfortable in his heart. Nobody moved. With Zhou here, everything would be fine. Zhou kept his arm extended, waiting for young Zhenghai to take his hand. Lives were exchanged in the endless world of mortals. Each was given his lot in life in the cycle of karma. It was rare to be reincarnated thrice. Would the past become naught after a long time? Zhenghai raised a trembling hand. When Zhou saw the confusion on young Zhenghai's face, he smiled faintly. Then, he pulled young Zhenghai up to his feet. When Zhenghai's hand made contact with Zhou, several blurry images flitted past his mind before chaos descended in his mind. Blurry figures appeared in his mind, and he was filled with a sense of déjà vu. Who's this old man? At this moment, the finely dressed man finally said, "Hold on." Zhou glanced at him and said indifferently, "A Rolian cultivator? This is the land of Roli. It's only natural for the people here to be Rolians," the finely dressed man said. "I'm Gailong." I've taken an interest in this young man. I'm planning to accept him as my disciple. Accept him as your disciple? Gaelong nodded. He has a good foundation and is talented. He's a promising candidate for cultivation. You have a good eye for talent as well, Zhou said. At this moment, Dong, who was standing at the village's entrance, said, My lord, they're all from Great Yen. Let's get rid of them. The villagers had witnessed Gaelong's strength before. Alas, Gaelong ignored them. Instead, he looked at Zhou and the others and said, I'm taking this young man with me. Let's see if you're able to. What's that supposed to mean? Gaelong asked. He was about to attack when he sensed the mysterious auras from behind the old man. The cultivation bases of the people at the back were unfathomable. The villagers, naturally, could not sense the cultivation bases of these visitors. They only wanted to watch a show. Zhou ignored them. Primal Qi surged from his wizened hand at this moment and entered Zhenghai's body to examine Zhenghai's Dantian Sea of Qi. He's a cultivator. Zhenghai's eyes widened. His instincts told him he would be saved. Zhou looked at young Zhenghai. He stroked his beard as he pointed at Guluo village and the finely dressed man before he asked, Do you want to defeat them? Zhenghai nodded vehemently even though he was confused. He did not know what Zhou was planning to do. He wanted to defeat these people more than anything else. Defeat is too soft a word, he wanted to kill them all. I do, young Zhenghai replied. All right, Zhou said calmly, you should learn to deal with your matters. I'll teach you a killing method. Are you willing to learn? Young Zhenghai nodded. I am. There are many in the world who wish to learn from me. If you want to learn, you'll have to become my disciple. Are you willing? The evil Sky Pavilion disciples who were clueless were, naturally, shocked. What was wrong with Zhou today? Why did he suddenly accept this unknown young man as a disciple? Why? Young Zhenghai met Zhou's gaze. The old man and the young man locked eyes. 300 years ago, Ji Tiandao did not ask this question. 300 years later, Zhou fulfilled Zhenghai's wish in Ji Tiandao's stead. Perhaps, it was due to a fuzzy sense of familiarity, Zhenghai's instincts trusted the old man before him. Moreover, he wanted to leave this place as soon as he could. He wanted to agree to Zhou, but he was also hesitant. This was because his senior brother, Yu Shangrong, had told him he would have a better master waiting for him in Great Yen. In the end, he said, stumbling on his words, but I already have a master. Upon hearing young Zhenghai's words, a few villagers laughed. Dong snickered. Useless piece of trash. Hi, how could someone like you have a master? You can't even defeat me. You take forever just to move some objects. The Lord said that you're talented and have a good foundation, but I think you've let it go to your head. You can't even defeat 2 wolf dogs in Guluo village. Zhou said gently, that's all right. If you can defeat them, I'll help you find your master. I'm your master, after all. Young Zhenghai was overjoyed. He no longer hesitated. He kneeled with a thud and kowtowed loudly thrice. He kowtowed so sincerely that the dirt on the ground stained his forehead. The others were baffled. Only Wuya had trouble suppressing the complicating emotions rising in his heart. The Rolian villager, Dong, laughed again and said, Him? If he can defeat me, I'll chop my head off. Zhou ignored the villagers. He looked at young Zhenghai who was getting to his feet. He placed a hand on his shoulder. Deal with your matters on your own. Yes, master. Zhou looked at Zhenghai. Then, he extended his arm to the side and said, Bring me the saber. Huh? Pan Zhong was puzzled. Wuya waved his sleeve. Pan Zhong walked up and placed the jasper saber he was carrying in Zhou's hand. Zhou said, Since you've become my disciple, I'll give you this saber. Wield it well. Young Zhenghai was bewildered. The saber was cold to the touch. At this moment, he felt a strong sense of familiarity from the saber. The saber felt like an extension of his body, this feeling caused him to tremble. He looked at the saber speechlessly, clearly shocked. Zhou flipped his palm. A wooden rod fell into his palm. He slowly said, "I'll teach you a set of saber techniques now." The villagers laughed even louder. Zhenghai nodded. "MHM. Listen carefully." Zhou turned around and stepped into the empty space. This saber technique begins by accumulating the force of 1,000 blades. With a flick of your fingers. He brandished the rod where he stood, he brought it to his left and right. The rod spun in his hand. His movements were fluid, neat, and thorough. The others looked on with fearful respect as Zhou taught the young man one of the most powerful saber techniques in the world. They stared at his movements. Young Zhenghai's jaws dropped from shock. Both the saber and the technique seemed familiar to him. It was embedded in his blood and soul. He instinctively followed Zhou's movement with his jasper saber. Zhou seemed pleased by this. He continued brandishing the wooden rod. The silent wind, qi as still as a lake, the shadowless light, the swift swing of the blade. The villagers were increasingly convinced that the old man in front of them was insane. Perhaps, it was due to the lack of primal qi, the old man looked comical and unimpressive as he waved the rod about. Even the Rolian cultivator, Gailong, was baffled. What's this old man doing? Why is he teaching a young man he just met? 100 rivers south of the sea. Zhou moved more quickly and lunged forward to stab a tree with the wooden rod. Bam! The rod pierced the tree, leaving a hole in the trunk. The others widened their eyes. Merge into one. Zhou tapped his foot, releasing a little primal qi. He tried to slow his movements and made them as detailed as possible. Then, he released his primal qi and leaped into the air. He tossed the wooden rod out as he said, "This is the Great Dark Heaven Memorial." The wooden rod released densely packed small spinning energy blades that shot down. Bam! 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 The trees dozens of meters around them were instantly felled by dark heaven starlight. The wind stopped, and the energy blades continued to fall. Silence descended on Guluo village. This was the Great Dark Heaven Memorial, the Dark Heaven Starlight. All saber techniques under the heavens paled in comparison. The villagers widened their eyes, in awe by the old man's feat of clearing the forest with a wooden rod. They did not know the Great Dark Heaven Memorial or any saber techniques, but they knew it was impressive. Guluo village was isolated from the world by the 100,000-foot abyss. It was exceptionally difficult to locate this place without understanding the geography. Jilong, a cultivator, looked at Zhou incredulously. He was considering fleeing at this moment. "The Great Dark Heaven Memorial," young Zhenghai murmured. A feverish look burned in his eyes. He had never heard of these words, but he repeated them over and over again. He felt as though he had uttered these words and unleashed this skill countless times in the past. Memories might be difficult to trace, but this saber technique had been ingrained in his marrow after years of training. In his life, aside from his obsession, all he had was this saber technique, the Great Dark Heaven Memorial, that he had practiced over and over again. Young Zhenghai felt his blood boiling. All of his muscles and movements were guided by the familiar saber technique. He learned quickly, unbelievably so. The observers around him were stunned. Zhou had perfectly demonstrated the saber technique. His movements were as smooth as flowing water. There were no wasted motions. However, it was an extremely complicated technique. How could it be learned by just watching it once? However, young Zhenghai's performance stunned the others. It felt as though he had practiced this countless times, based on how familiar he was with the technique. Young Zhenghai was engrossed in learning the saber technique that he forgot about everything else. The villagers looked at young Zhenghai in disbelief. They remembered what Lord Gailong said earlier. They could not help the ominous feeling that rose in their hearts. Was this slave truly a promising talent for cultivation? When Zhenghai unleashed the Dark Heaven Starlight, he instinctively tossed his jasper saber out. Bam! The jasper saber spun twice in the air before it stabbed into the ground. The intended effect did not occur. Young Zhenghai woke from his dreams. There was no fluctuation of primal chi, no great dark heaven memorial, no dark heaven starlight, not even the weakest energy saber could be seen. The villagers sighed in relief. The piece of trash was a piece of trash, after all. To think that he fantasized about wielding a saber and defeating them with a technique he was learning for the first time. He's born to be a slave. They were disdainful, but they, naturally, did not dare to show it on their faces. After all, the old man had cleared the forest with just a rod. This proved the old man was not someone to be trifled with. Fortunately, Lord Gaelong was still here. In the end, they decided to endure this for now. When the old man left, they would hang this piece of trash up and flog him for 10 days. Zhenghai looked at the jasper saber stuck in the ground. He said sheepishly, "I really am a piece of trash." However, the members of the Evil Sky Pavilion found it too shocking enough that he was able to pull all those moves on his first try. All he lacked was him to primal chi. Experts would pay attention to the methods while those who were ignorant would only pay attention to fanfare. Zhou stroked his beard and said, "Remember the essence, not the appearance. This is only your first try, why are you in a hurry?" Zhou opened his palm, and the jasper saber flew into his palm. Then, he sent the saber to Zhenghai. Zhenghai looked at the jasper saber and nodded as he received it with both hands. The second demonstration. Zhou did not show Zhenghai the moves again. Instead, he stepped aside and watched. After the first try, Zhenghai seemed more familiar with the technique. The members of the Evil Sky Pavilion were further shocked. The third time, fourth time, fifth time. Zhenghai improved with every repetition. The force behind his swings increased as well. Zhenghai increasingly felt that the jasper saber was a part of him. It was as though it was a part of his blood. He swung the saber with impressive might, his swings growing stronger and wilder. Bam! The saber hit a tree stump and cracked it open. The demonstration was over. Zhenghai took several deep breaths. Zhou stroked his beard and calmly said, "Good." In other words, there was no need to repeat it anymore. Zhou pointed at the villagers and said, "Make your choice." Zhenghai felt the chilling sensation from the jasper saber. A surge of confidence he could hardly explain welled up within him. He pointed at Dong, one of the villagers. "You." Dong was taken aback. "Me?" Zhou said, "I won't meddle in your affairs. Anyone who defeats him may live." Zhenghai gripped his jasper saber tightly and stepped forward. Dong frowned. He turned around and picked up an iron hoe. He said, "Fine, you're seeking death." After saying this, he rolled up his sleeve, exposing his muscles. Rullians were born brave, and their constitutions were like those of wild beasts. Dong's eyes glinted coldly as he charged forward with the iron hoe in his hands. Zhenghai took a step backward reflexively. Zhou said, "If you retreat, you'll die. If you advance, you might live." Zhenghai felt his hair stand on end. What was he afraid of? With a cry, he gripped the jasper saber tightly and charged out. Dong brought the iron hoe down. Die. Swoosh. Zhenghai raised his hand, the jasper saber was above his head. Bam. Zhenghai staggered 3 steps backward before he stabilized himself. Dong snorted. "Is that all?" He raised the iron hoe again. This time, he seemed to put more force into it. His movements were also exaggerated. Then, he charged again. Zhenghai stared at Dong. His knuckles were white as he gripped his saber tightly. "Relax." Zhou's voice rang in Zhenghai's ears. Zhenghai realized that he was too nervous. He took a deep breath and calmed down. Perhaps, it was due to his master's constant reminders and pointers, he quickly relaxed. His blood surged. Swoosh. Dong brought the iron hoe down. Zhenghai advanced. When the iron hoe fell, he sidestepped it reflexively and rammed his shoulder into Dong. Bam. Dong was knocked back. This? What happened? The villagers rubbed their eyes. They thought they were hallucinating. The way Young Zhenghai had sidestepped that attack was so smooth that it was as though he was incredibly familiar with it. He had moved like an elite. How did that happen? Gailong frowned slightly. This young man was truly a rare genius cultivator. Dong could not accept this outcome. He raised the iron hoe and charged at his opponent again. Young Zhenghai was calmer now. He saw Dong charging toward him. He seemed to have turned into a different person as he spat out a word. Weak. He raised his saber with a single hand and charged forward. Bam. 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 He made 3 consecutive slashes. The iron hoe was cut into 3 sections and fell to the ground. Dong's eyes widened. He stared incredulously at the iron hoe that had been split into 3. When he looked up again, Young Zhenghai was already standing before him before he realized it. The jasper saber was raised and brought down diagonally. The villagers were shocked. They regarded Zhenghai fearfully as though he was a fearsome monster. Young Zhenghai raised the saber again and swept it horizontally. Bam. A single strike. Bam. 2 strikes. Bam. 3 strikes. Bam. 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 3 consecutive strikes at Dong's shoulder. Fresh blood gushed out and stained his chest. He could not feel any pain at all, only intense fear. It was as though he was seeing the god of death. Apart from fear, only despair could be seen on his face. He did not expect the young man to be capable of unleashing such power. Every single slash of the saber hit his heart. A wolf always had a reason for turning back. It was either to repay kindness or to exact revenge. This young man was not a wolf, but he was sharper and more terrifying than one. Dong's gaze fell on Young Zhenghai's chest. The blade scars on his chest could be clearly seen. He remembered that 10 of them were his doing. Realization dawned on him as he fell to the ground. Young Zhenghai brought his saber down again and again. Bam. 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 Another 3 strikes landed. Soon enough, a head rolled over to the feet of the villagers. The metallic tang of blood permeated the air. Young Zhenghai raised the saber in one hand and pointed it at the villagers. His back was straight as he looked at them murderously.